I really, really like to run and do CrossFit, but I'm at a place where like I'm only pretty much doing things that bring me joy and don't take away from my life. Like if I have to cancel time with my partner or I have to not go out, I sacrifice too much and I never have balance.
Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspect of running, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. This episode is brought to you by KINeSYS. It's sunscreen, just better. May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, and given that skin cancer runs in my family, I'm proud to partner with and share KINeSYS with you. Now that I'm up in the mountains of Colorado, skincare and sun protection is more important than ever, especially with summer just around the corner. Their sunscreen spray makes application simple, and there's no scent or fragrance either. It's different than any sunscreen you've tried, and so light you won't even feel you're wearing it. This episode is brought to you by SuperCoffee, the healthy, delicious alternative to sugary coffee drinks. SuperCoffee was recently named the fastest growing food and beverage brand in America by Inc. magazine, and after tasting a bunch of their flavors, I can see why. Their coffees contain zero sugar, and many of them contain 10 grams of plant-based protein. They're growing in popularity in the running community, and I'm excited to share a special discount with you. They offer a 60-day money-back guarantee, meaning if you don't love it, you get your money back, no questions asked. Grab 15% online with the code FTLR or look for them nationwide in 25,000 stores like Target, Whole Foods, Walmart, Kroger, and CVS. Cheers.
You haven't mastered the one-handed pop top yet? Here, let me hold your mic.
I just cut my fingernails.
Yeah. Let's do this.
Cheers, Brian.
Cheers.
So I'm here with Bryan Kent for my first live podcast in, I believe it's 440 days.
How long have you been doing that math?
I actually looked it up before I came here.
All those preparatory facts.
Exactly.
That's mind-blowing.
Yes.
How many episodes have you done in 440 days?
I've done 103. 105.
I'm the only one with less than 3,000 followers on Instagram, guaranteed.
Well, we're here. We're back. That might be true. We're back. We're live. We're recording. We've got mics in our hands, beers in our hands. I just got an adjustment here. Back, vaxxed, and ready to podcast.
I felt like you were going somewhere else with that, but I was into it. And you totally have my dog's hair on your microphone. That's really cute and kind of gross all at the same time.
So this is the vibe I've been missing. And it's like the energy that you get from podcasting and like talking to a human and being able to see their face and the rest of their body.
I know. Yeah, I think I would have lost my mind if I wasn't seeing patients nearly every day of COVID. Like for the people who have been at home, like that's just like not my thing, and I just like thrive on people and community, and God, I would have lost it. So like good on you for digging in and being like, I'm gonna get after this.
I'm gonna do more. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you did it, man.
I mean, that's what I did. I was like, I need this. So I started doing back in March of last year. I was only recording podcasts. So I mean, yeah, I'm 105 episodes past then. So a lot of people who are listening now like haven't listened to the episodes.
Any of your live
were
ones.
Live.
Yeah.
So episodes 57 and earlier, those were all face to face. And so I was only doing podcasts like in Flagstaff and Boulder and at races. And then everything shut down and I was very bored and isolated and I did 14 I
was kind of sad.
Yeah. I did 14 episodes in a week period. And I was like, I gotta start releasing 2 a week. Okay. So before we get too far, my first question is always a hard one.
I think I know what it is.
Yeah.
It's always the same one.
Who is Bryan Kent? I always ask, who's Bryan Kent? And people are always very confused.
Yeah, they're like, well, never heard of this person. He doesn't have any Instagram followers. Who is Bryan Kent? I knew you were going to ask this, and I was like trying to prep. And well, I'm a chiropractor in Boston, rather new business owner. I'm a dog dad. I'm wildly obsessed with the human body and like the human condition and how all that overlaps with every, person I meet and every single kind of treatment session I have. And even if I've seen you 100 times, it's also unlikely I've seen you 100 times. I would be really terrible at my job if I saw you 100 times. But just every time it's a clean slate because everything is changing all the time. So, your quote unquote pain or injury might be the same, but you're different than you were the day before or the week before or the year before. So I'm just having this like kind of cool moment in every treatment session right now where I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I really don't. And so I'm just like kind of obsessed with that right now.
And so you've been in Boston for 3 years now. 4
I
years?
moved in 2017. So this will be, yeah.
So I've been basically seeing you for 4 years and
not for the same injury.
Right.
Or not for the same pain.
Damn thing. No, it's for the longest time is just maintenance and making sure that the legs are feeling good. Shout out to Chris Chavez.
Yeah.
But jokes aside, it's been fascinating to watch first of all, watch your own business grow, but second, watch your brain work and see, like, Bryan is not a Band-Aid kind of guy. He's we're gonna address the acute issue and address the reason that you have the acute issue so that the acute issue goes away. And then something else will pop up. And we'll address that. And it's like, instead of playing the game of whack-a-mole, you just clear out all the moles all in one shot.
Yeah. You just drop a dynamite down the first hole and hope it gets all of them.
I've been spending a lot of time in the minefields of the groundhogs out near Boulder. So I feel like that would be an effective
I don't even know what that means. Is that a thing?
Yeah. So,
like, Boulder was a mining town?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm making a bad joke about all of the holes from the groundhogs that are in the ground.
Oh, I get you. Yeah. Oh, yeah, where everybody goes to break their ankles.
Yes.
Now I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, so that's the quadruple IPA that you just handed me.
I was going to say, how's your beer, by the way?
It's good. It's 6.9% alcohol.
That's a beer.
That's a beer.
It's a real beer.
A lamplighter. It's good. So you have an interesting background athletically. So let's set the stage there before we dive into more of that.
Sure.
So how did you get into running and triathlon?
I got into running and triathlon probably the same way most people do. I started playing team sports when I was a kid. I really was loved baseball as a young kid. I was obsessed with it. I would like play catch with myself in the middle of winter because no one else would run to play catch with me. But my dad started running marathons when he was probably a little younger than I am now, and so I was about 10. And I remember him running the 100th Boston Marathon, 1996, and it was just wild. And so, everybody wants to be like their dad or their mom or their uncle, or, there's some close connection to it. And so I was like, I'm going to be a runner. And so, we always had like the mile race in elementary school, and I was like really terrible at it, but I like in my head, I think I was good, but like truly I wasn't. I was not built. I was kind of short. Just not a good runner when I was younger. Just puberty was very kind to me, and pre-puberty was not so kind. So then I started running. What's that?
That's relatable.
Yeah, I mean everybody. So I started running when I was like 12 years old, and started, doing little track meets and 5Ks, and ran cross country as a 7th and 8th grader, and it just kind of. By the time I was a freshman, I all of a sudden was 5'10" instead of 5'2", and I was kind of fast, and so everything kind of happened from there.
And so you got into triathlon, and what was the evolution from running into triathlon?
I didn't want to be a triathlete. I resisted it like crazy. My hometown, Rochester, New York, has this little hotbed of these triathletes who in like the 90s were like triathlon didn't have a really big pro scene in the 90s and late 80s, but there was like this group of like 10 guys who could really throw down and they would show up any race nationally and they could win, and they would go to Kona every year. And so I was connected with these folks through the running community, and from a young age, they were really pressing me to do triathlon. And I was like, triathlon's stupid. Like, I'm just going to be a professional runner. Like, how hard could it be? And
well, please refer to episodes 1 through 160.
Yeah. It's incredibly hard. And it's everything all at once has to come together. And some people are just genetically ready to do that, and they know from a young age, and that just wasn't me. So I was a grinder, and because I was a grinder, I got hurt a lot. And so I started riding a bike because I couldn't run 7 days a week. I could barely run 5 days a week. And so I started biking a lot. And my older brother was a big influence on me. He was always faster than me, always stronger, always better at every sport ever. He got a bike, then I got a bike. So I have to really credit him for kind of pushing that as well. And we're like two of the most pig-headed competitive people ever. So every time we got on a bike, it was a race. Like, we didn't go for a ride. We would hammer for 2 hours until we could barely stand. So then I was pretty okay at biking and ran through college, had a hard college experience as a runner, but also as a person. It was just a hard transition for me. I had a really bad eating disorder junior year. Ironically, it was like that next summer, I like thought I put the lid on the eating disorder, but it really was just like raging underneath. But I was running more than I ever had. I was running faster than I ever had. And, over a summer, I was like a different runner. It was insane. I took 35 seconds off a 2-mile in a summer. It was wild. Not that I was like super fast before, but all of a sudden I was like, whoa, did I just run, 9:35 for 2 miles? And I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I'm going to do it. Like, this is the beginning. I've like crossed that threshold. And then 3 weeks later, I couldn't walk, and at the time I was like, oh, I have IT band syndrome. And it was awful. I didn't walk for 2 months. I couldn't bend my knee past like 15 degrees of flexion. And had I, knowing what I know now, I think I could have treated myself, but it was awful. And then, so I basically came to this realization that I was not going pro as a runner, because I ran D3. I make it sound like I was really good, and I wasn't. I was like a mid-packer, D3. I was good enough to win a local 5K, not good enough to win the local 5K if any other college runner showed up. So it was like,
we got to get you on Noah Drawdy's D3 Glory Days podcast.
Yeah.
You can relive those 5Ks.
Yeah, well, I couldn't even live glory days as a D3 runner. Like that, I was like a mid-packer. So I was like, I've been following triathlon forever. I ride a bike. I grew up swimming and coaching swimming. And I was like, maybe I could do this tri thing. And like pro triathletes at the time, like if you could run 33 off the bike for a 10K, you were in the field. You weren't going to win, but you were like in the hunt. So I was like, I can do that. Okay, now I just need to learn how to, swim a mile in 17 minutes and then, bike a 40K in 58 or whatever. And so that was the goal. So I just like, okay, that's what I'm doing. So I graduated. I moved to California, spent all my money on 2 bikes, and tried to go pro.
There's a lot to unpack there. You've told your story with the experience with an eating disorder on another podcast. Was that running on Ohm?
I've never been on Running on Ohm.
Which podcast was that on?
I think it was Purposeful Strength with a strength coach here in Boston, Cambridge area, Sarah Polacco, who's a really great strength coach, a really amazing advocate for so many different facets of like marginalized community, whether it's women or LGBTQ. She's just outstanding. She has a great podcast. I'm not sure if it's still running. I'll have to text her. But yeah, so I've talked about it multiple times. I'm a pretty open book about it. I think it's been so long. I was 20 or 19 and I'm 35 now, and I'm so far away from it now. It like doesn't hurt. It doesn't sting. It doesn't scare me. It doesn't like bring up anything really.
I always wonder if having experiences like that makes you a better, I don't want to say coach, but practitioner or like able to relate to people or understand that like there might, like the person that keeps coming in for the bone injury, like there might be more to that.
Yeah, in a weird way, I think when you talk to people who have gone through experiences, especially with health, whether it's an eating disorder, depression, anxiety, to like way more extreme, surviving cancer, like very often people are like, I'm actually grateful for the experience now that I'm past it.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a good experience. Like it was awful.
Right.
I had to do a lot of therapy, and like there are times where I still kind of struggle with like body image a little bit, but it never really, it's always like a thought, and it's like, I kind of wish I was super jacked, and then it goes away. But I think it's one of these things that I think has really shaped me significantly, because you can't unsee it, you can't unexperience it, and so when you have these patients or these people who come in, like I have patients, but I treat people. So people come in the room and like they just kind of like they start talking the talk and walking the walk, and the way they talk about their body or food, or you just can kind of tell that maybe there's something there. And in a way, it's like it's complicated, right? Because I'm not a mental health professional, but I'm a health professional, and this is part of health. And I think a lot of people also know that I've had an eating disorder, and so it's very often like a safe space. And so the door is already open for those people. And so the number of times that I've had that conversation about, are you seeing a therapist? Like, have you ever considered that you have an eating disorder? I really think we should get you some professional help for this. And like, we don't even end up talking about their injury. We spend an hour and a half talking about them as a person and their experience. And maybe at the next visit, now we're like, oh yeah, your foot hurts. Cool. Let's take care of your foot. But you, the person, is way more important. So I think it's 100% informed my clinical judgment and experience, probably as much as anything.
Yeah. The whole bit about not playing a therapist, like sort of acting as a therapist, like the number of times I've been laying on the table and just like dumped my thoughts out.
Yeah. It's complicated. And honestly, I think this is,
I see a therapist.
Right. Same. I date a therapist.
Now that's a setup.
Yeah.
I got to get me one of those.
Yeah. We do not do therapy at home, but she's, so mindful. She's just like, she was like built for this job. So it's not like we're like doing therapy, but she's very empathetic. She's great. But like all the time, I'm like, I am wildly unprepared to treat mental, emotional health, eating disorders, whatever it may be. But it's like you said, I don't know if it's the environment we create in our practice, but like from the time I've been in practice, people have been talking to me about things that I don't ask about, but they need to talk about it, right? So I'm there to listen, and I'm there to, I do not offer clinical advice or therapeutic advice. If they need help, I refer a ton. It's the number one referral I make is mental health. And if there are any, mental health professionals out there listening who would like to refer with us or come work with us, please give me a call, because we always need
There are a few that listen, so
yeah. So if you're there, give us a shout. We would love to work with you. Yeah, and it's hard because I feel like I've always been a really sensitive person. I've always really been someone who like can like walk into a room and I can tell you who's having a great day without ever talking to them and who's having a dog shit day. I didn't mean to curse.
All good.
Great. I curse a lot, and I curse way more than I thought I would as a clinician. I always thought I would be really professional, but I curse a lot. But yeah, so it's I can just like tell like all the time people come in the door, new patient, existing patient, and I can just kind of be like, "You okay?" Like, I feel like there's something more here than just your foot hurts or your back hurts, and like this is a safe space.
Like, I mean, the number of times that you said that to me, it was probably twice, but both times I was like, I'm actually having that dog shit day.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, he's good. I think it's so important. I think that the medical system is very confused and confusing, and it's like, where do you go? Where do you turn? What do you do? And people just want to talk. And like the number of people that will like message me on Instagram and just like send paragraphs, I don't have to say anything. I just acknowledge it, and like hear them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I talk about mental health and this and that. And people, I think, feel that it's a safe space. And again, I don't have to do anything. And they're appreciative of just the listening that is happening.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. Like social media, I don't know if anyone else had this experience, but I felt like Facebook like became this place where you like raged out against your ex and like inadvertently like talk shit and you would like post song lyrics and you'd be like, you know who this is about.
AOL Instant Messenger.
Yeah, maybe that was it with your like your away
messages.
Yeah. So I think that was like the first place where people could like be vulnerable and it was like acceptable because then you would get feedback and people would comment and be like, hey, I'm thinking about you.
Right.
And like, so it's like validating. And I feel like Instagram has like really become this place where people like really share their story. And I just think it's really cool. I don't know what's different about it, but it feels like the Facebook space, sorry, Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook space
he's doing okay.
Yeah, he's doing just fine. But Facebook is like where you shit on other people and just hate each other and just talk about QAnon or whatever. But even like 10 years ago, it just never felt like the place to be emotional. It felt like the place to be angry or vengeful. But Instagram just feels like this place where you're like, you can like create your space, you know what I mean? And people can interact with you and respond and get help. But like truly, I don't think we should be getting mental health help on Instagram. But I think the community is really important. And it's nice that like emotions are becoming important versus like, oh, your feelings are dog shit. Don't worry about it. Like just suck it up or what. I don't even know.
Yeah. And I think the other piece is like you being a dude who says all of this stuff. It's like you're sort of breaking from like conventional, like suck it up and be a bro and
I've
deal
never
with
been
it.
A bro. I feel like I probably tried to be a bro once. I think I bought some like baggy jeans with like
you don't make mistakes.
Right? Those like low pockets with like the patch on the pocket. I don't know, maybe I'm aging myself a little bit. But I like really wanted to be cool, but I just never wasn't. But I was always super emotional from like 3 years old. Like my brothers used to call me Crying Bryan. Like I just cried a lot.
That's the name of the title of this.
Yeah, good. Please do that. That'd be great. So I've always been just like a little bit not that way, always. So I don't know if I was born that way or genetic or I don't know.
So big pivot here.
Yeah.
Why'd you move to Boston?
I moved to Boston because my grandparents are from Boston and my parents are from Detroit. I grew up in Rochester, New York. And I don't know. I just always felt like I was supposed to be here. And I love the Red Sox. They're really making me sad the past couple of years, well, last year. So yeah, it just kind of like, there was just this pull here and, you know, I knew the running community was really strong here and I knew I really wanted to treat runners. I had no idea how strong the running community is. I will make the argument that from, you know, first time 5K'er all the way up to professional runner, we have the best running community in the world. Or the largest, or the most diverse. And it just has blown me away being here ever since. Like the running community is just crazy here.
And so, what, a year ago, you decided it's time to start my own practice. Right at the beginning of the pandemic.
The timing was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really hard. But it just felt like the thing that I really needed to do for my own life. Practice is like significantly harder than I ever actually expected it to be on a lot of different levels. It's really physically demanding and it's incredibly emotionally demanding, way more than the physical. The physical, like I can deal with, but like the emotional part is hard. And I finish most days without the capacity for like another conversation, another like emotional dive, another moment where I'm like,
another podcast.
That's different. We're drinking beers. You brought me a burrito. Got the dog here. So it really is, it's incredibly difficult. And I think there are other people who probably don't have that experience clinically, but for me, like that, I think that's how I do well. I just deep dive and, you know, however you come here, I'm ready for it. Like if we're going to cry together, let's go. Like I got tissues. Like it's going to be all right. And so I was like really worried about my long-term health and my long-term sustainability. Like I want to be doing this for 50 years. Like there's really fun stories about like old timey chiropractors who are literally 90 years old still seeing patients. I don't know if I want to do that, but I really like what I do. And we haven't talked about this yet, but I also have multiple sclerosis, and I was diagnosed with that right before I graduated school, ironically. And I was really scared. Like I don't want to be in a wheelchair. And I know that if I don't take care of I don't know, but I'm very scared of the reality that if I don't take care of myself and I don't do things the way I need to do them emotionally and physically, like I don't know what the next 30 years is going to bring. And I want to do everything I can to be prepared for that. And that was where this came from. So financial stability, schedule stability. I now have a dog at work, which is just like, it's the best. So yeah, it was a really hard decision to want to do that. Ultimately, I'm really glad I did, but it was a really hard shift.
Thanks again to KINeSYS Sunscreen for supporting this episode. Everything from the ergonomic bottle to the ingredients they include and also leave out have been developed specifically for those of us who love to stay active and be outdoors. Available in select retailers and online, grab a 15% discount with the code FTLR and step up your sun protection game this spring and summer. Visit them at KINeSYSactive.com. That's KINESYS active.com. Thanks again to SuperCoffee for supporting this episode. I have been loving their French vanilla and hazelnut flavors and the cold brew cans. SuperCoffee combines the caffeine from 2 cups of coffee with protein and healthy fats to give you hours of focused energy with no jitters or crash. I love it as a strong start to the day. Receive 15% off of your purchase at drinksupercoffee.com/FTLR or use the code FTLR at checkout. I recommend trying one of their variety packs or bundles. If you give it a try, let me know what you think. And now back to our conversation. So one of the pieces from that I find fascinating is I did this for me so I could do this for a long time, right? Like your job is to help people have a better experience. Like you and I have talked over and over again about like how much your work has contributed to like my success and the success of professional runners and the success of the woman that walked out the door and Kingsley licked her face and like all of these things. Like you are building the success of dozens and hundreds of people. And
you're making me blush over here.
Yeah.
Man.
So
I'm kind of uncomfortable.
First question, like what does that feel like?
For you to say it?
No, for that to be the outcome.
I mean,
is that why you do it?
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine doing other work. Literally, I said it before, I'm obsessed with what I do, and I'm obsessed with my patients, and like probably not in a healthy way. Like it really.
But it's like a puzzle for you. Like every time I come in, remember when we had it was the nerve?
Which one?
The nerve in my ankle. I was convinced I had a stress fracture.
Yeah.
And Bryan did all this evaluation and testing and all this stuff. And he's like, I've got a hypothesis. And
it's wild.
It was wild. He's like, it's wild. This is like, you're not going to believe this one. I'm looking at this guy. It looks like a foot with like 6 toes.
1, 2, 3. That's 5.
Okay. I'm just one at the bottom.
I'm just a terrible artist.
Anyway, yeah.
There's a whiteboard behind me that I drawn and pictures, and I'm a horrible artist, but it really helps me interact with people, so I use it.
Yeah. So Bryan is hypothesizing that I don't have a stress fracture, and
which is a scary hypothesis because if I'm wrong, I really effed up.
Right. And so he just kept like trying different things to sort of like see if what he was hypothesizing was true. And it ended up being like a nerve stimulation issue. Mm-hmm. And if it was addressed in one certain way, I would have no pain whatsoever and I could run fast and far and it was totally fine.
Good to go.
And then I did run fast and far.
And I did it again.
And then I did it again. And I just kept running.
Yeah.
I forget where I was going with this, but where I think I was going with it was that it is like a puzzle, and you aren't satisfied until you have a conclusive answer.
Yeah, I'm really not satisfied, and it's probably to my detriment. It's probably annoying for my patients sometimes because,
But from a business standpoint, you can just have people come in, treat them, and send them on their way.
Sure.
And there's churn and whatnot. Turnover.
Yeah.
And you get people and you get them, on your way. But you spend the time to understand, like, why is this happening? And so we were talking prior to recording about the sort of the running community and the injuries that happen in the running community.
Yeah.
Do you want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, we got enough time.
6 hours?
I know, right? So, I mean, when you start clinical practice, I had a running background, I had triathlon background, I had every injury, and it's the reason I'm a chiropractor and I treat athletes is because I was one who needed one, and beers are making me a little belchy over here. I hope that really came in clear.
Brian will edit that out. Not you, Brian, the other Brian.
Another Brian.
Brian Walters of Single Track Sound is
wonderful.
The guy doing my audio
That's
now.
That's a great name.
It isn't it?
Great name. I think it's better than Forward Spine and Sport. I'll be honest.
You guys do different things.
Yeah. Single Track Sound is dope, though. I like that.
Alliteration.
Yeah, right. We tried so hard to come up with a kick-ass name.
It's sported, right?
Yeah.
Rolls off the tongue.
I'm happy with the name. I mostly like our color. Technically, I don't know what the color code system is called, but it's called
Pantone.
Yeah, that. I knew you would know. Our Pantone is Fab 600, and that just makes me feel really happy because I kind of feel like I'm Fab 600. That's like my personality. If you had to do a Pantone code, that's me.
I mean, it's no Mr. 3000, but
is there a Mr. 3000
Pantone? That the baseball movie
with Bernie Mac? Yeah, it is not a Mr. 3000. I was thinking of the band Power Man 5000, 3000. Do you remember?
I don't.
If you don't know who Power Man 3000 is, I don't know what to say to you. It was like a 90s weird, I wouldn't even know what the hell to call it. Punk, metal, angry.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, great. The hell were we talking about?
So we were talking about
running injuries so I had all the typical running injuries, and very often in school you learn formulas of how to assess, how to diagnose, and how to treat. It's if they do this and then this and then this is what you do, and that's how you fix it, quote unquote. And so you graduate and you find out that you don't know a damn thing about anything. And so you're just running around like a crazy person trying to, quote unquote, fix people. And I feel like I actually did okay for my first year out. I felt like my head was only slightly in my ass, whereas a lot of people, their head is way up their ass and they have no idea what they're doing. And that's not a bad thing. You ask any clinician, lawyer, police officer, and they'll tell you the first.
Till you make it.
Yeah. First 5 years, you're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And that really bothered me and scared me. And I hated when people would come in and I couldn't help them. And I have the unreasonable expectation that I will be able to change someone's pain outcome in one visit. I'm not saying done in one visit. I'm just saying change it, modify it, understand it. And that's unreasonable, but I still have it, and it's always going to be my goal. And I just kind of got obsessed with the why, right? For me, the one that really blew my mind was plantar fasciitis. And because every time someone came in with plantar fasciitis, you get their note ahead of time and they'll write, I have plantar fasciitis. Every single time I was like, shit, this is going to suck. Because I was like, I don't know what the hell to do with this thing, right? My tools at the time were really limited, right? You have an inflamed plantar fascia. That's what itis means. It's an inflamed fascial membrane. What the hell are you supposed to do to that thing? And it's, for those of you who've never cut open a human body in cadaver dissection, the plantar fascia is so thick that you have to use 2 fresh scalpels to cut all the way through it. You can use one, but you're going to be sawing for a while. It's remarkable. The structure it's incredible. And every single time a patient came in with that, I would I would probably see him like 8 or 10 times, and every single time it was like a miss. And I'd get to like 8 visits, and I'd be like, I'm wasting your time. Like, I'm not helping you, and I'm sorry. I don't know who the hell can help you, right? Like orthotics, soft tissue, Graston. I was an acupuncturist too. I still am. So I felt like I had a leg up. That was like the only place I was actually helping people with quote unquote plantar fasciitis. But people didn't want to pay out of pocket for it. It was kind of a mess. Anyways, so I was like, okay, this is insane. Like, this cannot be this difficult to treat. Like, if I'm batting 0 on this, I'm obviously doing this wrong. And so I just like sucked it up, swallowed the pill, and was like, you suck at treating this, which means I actually don't know what it is. I'm not assessing it appropriately. And I just like started over, like literally opened an anatomy textbook in like this moment of dire frustration. I was like, what other things could go ouchie on the bottom of the foot? And I discovered there's like 14 to 20 other structures in that general vicinity where people point to the bottom of their foot, anywhere on the bottom of their foot, and say, I have plantar fasciitis. And so I just decided that plantar fasciitis basically doesn't exist. And that's not like evidence supported. It's not a useful diagnosis in my mind. And there's so many other things that are actually happening on the bottom of the foot. So people come in and they're like, I have plantar fasciitis. I was like, you have plantar foot pain. We don't know what's causing it. And I basically went to all these common running injuries, and I went to the literature. I called friends. I listened to podcasts, and I was like, we got to do better at this. There are people who are way smarter than me who are figuring this out. And I'm going to do better than just like beating the shit out of the bottom of your foot. Like, I'm just not going to do that anymore because it didn't work. So why the French would I keep doing it? Like, I just felt like a crazy person. And so I stopped doing that stuff, and I learned how to reassess the foot. I learned how to reassess gait. I had one today that came in, plantar fasciitis. And I was like, no, you have some sort of nerve sensitization of tibial and sural nerve. You have a suspected mild tendinopathy of the short foot flexors. And they're like, the F does that mean? I was like, it means you're going to get better a lot faster, and you're not going to live with this for the next 15 years like letsrun.com forums will have you believe. I looked at all these things, IT-band syndrome. The literature is very clear. It's not a friction thing. Piriformis syndrome. Just there's so many of these like dog shit diagnoses out there that just like aren't helpful and make people feel like they're just never going to run again. And, you know, we can't diagnose things because the bottom of your foot hurts. Okay, you have plantar fasciitis. Your butt hurts. Okay, you have piriformis syndrome. Like, we just can't do that. It's so useless. And our tools to treat them are crap if we don't know what it is. So you have to actually know what the hell you're treating. And so that was like my aha moment. And I've been trying to dig myself out of that black hole ever since.
So for those who are listening at home and are like, wow, I've been feeling this way too, and perhaps they don't live in Boston. They can't come into Forward Spine and Sport where they've got Kingsley and Bryan. What do they do?
You know, I would say just like if you're a runner, you're probably listening to this, you're a runner, and someone assesses you.
If not, please tell me what sport you follow. And
right.
Some of your favorite
or
athletes
triathlon
on too.
And someone pokes you where it hurts and says, yep, that's X. Get up and say, are you going to assess me, the human, the person, my body? And if they look at you like you have 3 heads, I don't know if you're in the right place. Because we cannot diagnose these things based on location and based on what I call poke test. I can make any area of the body hurt exquisitely with my thumbs. It does not mean that anything is actually wrong. It does not indicate that there is a problem there. The body is sensitive. Of course it's going to hurt if I dig my thumb into it. That's ridiculous. So don't accept your first diagnosis if you're not happy. You know, don't just say, oh, yeah, I got plantar fasciitis. You know, I had a friend who dealt with this for 10 years. That's insane. Like there can't be chronic plantar fasciitis because you can't have inflammation that lasts 10 years. I suppose you could, but the likelihood is insane. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense. Like the body just, you wouldn't make it 10 years, right?
So he's making a point that is applied to running, but it's also applied to life in general. So many stories of people who like finally figure out something about their health, like it doesn't happen on the first try.
No.
Or the second or the third. And it's like we're in this medical system where you are your own best advocate. You are your only advocate sometimes. And you got to figure it out and keep asking questions to the right people.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I honestly, like, there are people who are way better at what I do. And those are my mentors. Those are the people I look up to. Those are the people whose books I read. And I mean, they have an understanding of the things that I'm doing, and that I would say I have like a C+ understanding. And they literally wrote the book on it. And I'm trying to absorb what they do. And not everybody wants to learn their entire career. And like, that's fine. You're probably going to be like coin flip successful. You'll probably help half of everyone by mistake, basically. And that's honestly, like, those are pretty good odds. Like, if you're, you know, Xander Bogaerts for the Red Sox and you're batting 500, you're going to have the best slugging percentage in the league. You'll be the best hitter that year. But in my, like, 50% is not a good ratio for me and for my business partner. Like, we're just not about that. Like, if we're not helping you in the first 3 visits, we missed it. You know what I mean? And we're going to start over. So that's what you want. Like, if you're going to see someone and you're seeing them 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 times, and they're not reassessing you, and they're just like, oh yeah, just like give it time. Be like, tell me why I need to give it time. Like, tell me about the anatomy. Tell me about the physiology. Why do I need 16 weeks to heal this? If it's a tendinopathy, you need 16 weeks to heal it. If it's tendinitis, you need 6 days. You have to know the difference. Ask questions. Be annoying. Like, don't take no for an answer, and don't just accept that. Like, the other thing that kills me is, like, we are obsessed with inflicting pain on each other clinically. There are times when there's like almost like one exception. Shockwave is like this thing that's kind of relatively new, and it has really great clinical results when used appropriately and clinically and how the research says it should be. And it's exquisitely painful. It is not a comfortable thing. And it's pretty successful with like plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendinopathy, and hamstring tendinopathy. But on the whole, I don't think you need to hurt people to help them. Like, I'm not buying this whole like good pain bullshit. This like, oh, I need to foam roll my leg until I'm in tears. That's insane. Like, really think about what you're doing. Like, why does that make any sense? You are in pain, and now you are inflicting more pain. Do you think your brain or nervous system likes this? Absolutely not. Put that spin on it. Your brain's like, why are you doing this to me? Please stop. It's begging you. And you're like, oh yeah, like, good hurt. I think I'm bleeding. I must be doing this right. Like, people who like self-graston at home literally have people come in with like scars and blood. And I'm like, do you feel better? And they're like, remarkably, no. And I'm like, I'm so surprised. It's crazy. But that's what it does. Like, pain is super messed up. And it's emotional, and it's not just ouch. It like permeates your life. And that's the other thing. Like, if you're a person, your chiropractor, your PT, whoever isn't like, hey, how's the rest of your life going? Like, are you in a good place to heal right now? Are you in a good place to be doing sport? Like, you know, running community is small. We all know all the shit that's going on in each other's lives. And it's like, I know you're going through a divorce and you're trying to train for a marathon and you're in all this pain. Like, that didn't happen by chance, you know?
I think we're finally getting to...
I'm screaming, by the way. I'm sorry, listeners.
Again, we have the leveler here that will kick in when it's at peak.
Thank God.
And my guy Bryan will take care of the shouting. I did a podcast...
At single track sound. Let's go.
I did a podcast with a woman named Sally McRae, who is a professional trail runner and owner of the loudest laugh that I've ever heard.
Yeah. And
I'd never seen this thing blink until she started laughing. And I can hear her laugh.
That's
like
great.
Right now from thinking about that, and it's fantastic.
But how nice is that, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I'll have to forward you
I'll listen to you. I'll just go back through your 180 episodes and find it.
This one was recorded live in Vermont.
What a place.
It was beautiful.
I love Vermont.
But where I was going before Kingsley so rudely interrupted us.
Oh, she's so cute.
Kingsley is a 4-legged dog here.
versus a 2 or a 6-legged.
I was going to say four-legged being in this room here. Anyway, what I was going to say was, I think we're finally getting to a place where we can understand that stress is stress.
Yeah.
And what we do on the roads, on the trails, and at work, in life, relationships, like as my coach David says all the time, the body doesn't know miles, it knows stress.
Yeah.
And I think that
what's up?
Yeah, so many people go out for a run to try and like
relieve
their stress.
Shit.
Yeah. When
it only works for so long.
Right. And if you can, harness it in the right way and you're, jogging super easy, maybe. But
good luck with that.
Yeah, from a long-term perspective, like one of the hills that I will die on is running is not therapy. Therapy is therapy.
I will die on that hill with you every day.
Running
every single day.
Yeah, running can be therapeutic.
Yes.
But I don't think it can be therapy. And
no.
Back to like the healthcare system, like not everyone has access to therapy, which is a huge problem.
Massive. Yeah.
And another plug for Bigger Than the Trail, which is an organization that seeks to provide therapy for people who can't afford it and provide mental health services via running and for those who run at no cost. So at least there are options out there. But I remember you said to me, it must have been 2019, when I was just having like breakthrough after breakthrough. You were like, it's because running is just running and you're free.
Yeah.
And you're doing the work in therapy. And I was going through a breakup and the loss of my grandfather all at once. And so like I had this life stress, but it was being dealt with. Yeah. And it was awful at the time, but it was like the weirdest dichotomy between like how brutal that was and how well my running was going.
Which doesn't happen very often. Truly. Like whether you're doing therapy or not. Yeah, so I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, but that was bizarre. But you made that comment about like doing the work. And so I was like very mindful of these life stresses and the things that kept popping up from I didn't have plantar fasciitis, but
sure. Thank God.
I
have to cut that damn thing out.
Plantar fasciitis shaming. We're going to get
I'm really going to catch some hell. I'm going to lose like 5 Instagram followers.
But you might gain 10, so.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, one of the things you mentioned is the longevity in your career.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about running and what's your relationship with running these days, and how is it contributing to happiness or just a more complete life versus, a 9:35 2-mile, which is freaking fast.
It was fast, and I haven't run that fast since. Sad face. And I probably never will run that fast again. That ship's probably sailed.
Is that okay?
I'm working on it. I don't know, man. I'm like, I knew this question was going to come up, and I still don't actually have an answer to it because, like, I haven't answered it for myself. Like, I don't really race. I don't really train.
Well, I did beat you that one time.
You did? You whooped my ass.
You beat me the year before.
Yeah, but you whooped my ass. And you knew it was going to happen too. I had a little chip on my shoulder from a 5K that John and I dueled it out, and I thankfully negative splitted because there was this little bastard of a hill. It was like 1%, but it felt like Mount Everest at like mile 2. And I don't know. I just knew I wasn't fast, so I didn't go out hard. And every other fast person in Boston ran the 5-miler, so it was me and John. Right. It was either one of us who were going to win it, and it was real fun. And then we
both got extra beers though, so
we did. You whooped my ass the next year though. I don't know. I'm probably going to struggle with this until I'm like, I know I'm physiologically not capable of doing X, but like, I still want to run a marathon. I trained for one last year. I didn't end up doing it because of COVID, but I hated the process. I did not have a good relationship with the marathon.
So how do you rectify that? Or do you?
I don't know yet. At the time, I just stopped running. I heard the marathon was canceled. I literally ran a 21 miler 2 days before. And it was terrible. Like I hated it. was checking my watch like every 60 seconds to like, what's my pace? What's my pace? I want to BQ or whatever. I was miserable and I wasn't getting any faster. And I was trying so hard and it wasn't enjoyable. And, when I was diagnosed with MS, there were people who were like, don't ever race again. Like, it'll kill you. Literally, that's what they said. They're like, if you want to live a long life, you're not a runner anymore.
What did you say to those people?
I think I said, fuck you. They made me an ultimatum. They said, no racing 3 years. Give yourself 3 years.
Did you?
I did. Almost to the day. And I don't know, man. I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, I think I want to do an Ironman, but I don't know. And I think I want to run, a marathon. I think I want to try and BQ. Like, I really, really like to run and do CrossFit, but I'm at a place where like I'm only pretty much doing things that bring me joy and don't take away from my life. Like, if I have to cancel time with my partner or I have to not go out, I sacrificed too much and I never had balance. You know what I mean? Like, I ran 9:35 for a 2 mile, which is not outstanding. It's great, but like nobody on the pro circuit gives a shit and nobody knows my name. You know what I mean? So, and I had no balance. I had a raging eating disorder. I was depressed as hell. Like, I didn't have any friends, but I was fast. And I was like, I just have never been able to figure it out. And there are people who do, and I'm like super happy for them. And then later we find out, 10 years after their gold medal, that they were inches from taking their life. And you're like, this just doesn't seem worth it. It's crazy. So I don't know. Well, I'll let you know next time. I think I do know I'm going to do a long trail run in the fall, I think.
I love that. And the reason that I love that is because when I was getting out of balance with running, it was trail running that brought me back into it. And it was losing the watch, losing the splits, losing the care about like, oh, my long run was 2 hours and 15 minutes this week, and it was 2 hours and 13 minutes over the same distance last week, and 2:17 the week prior. Like, it just doesn't matter. And so this was after Boston 2017 when my goal was sub 3, and I ran 4:01. Daniel ran a 4:06 and finished 5 minutes behind me, and was like, my God, if I knew you were 5 minutes up the road, I would have got on my horse.
Yeah.
And
probably had very different experiences.
Oh my God.
Yes. How happy were you at the end of that race?
I mean, I wasn't happy about anything. I was happy to be finished. And I literally curled over at the finish line because I like threw my hands up and then I had searing pain in my calves.
Yeah, I've seen those pictures.
Fell down.
Did you have a mustache?
I did have a mustache.
It was so gross.
Yeah, it was. My coach, when I ran Boston 2015, I had a worse mustache. He was like, you can't go within 200 feet of a school zone.
Literally. The look you got now is much better, bud.
Thank you. So anyways, I was in a tough place running over an hour over goal time.
Yeah.
And was obsessed with running sub 3. And I didn't run sub 3 for 2 more years. Mm-hmm. And I spent those 2 years running trails and not caring about pace and time and this and that. And so for anyone who's listening, who's like maybe going through this and is unsure of like why they're going out for that 20 miler or whatnot. I just had a woman named Katie Ashley on the podcast earlier today, and she talked about taking a break from running. And I asked if it was a forced break or a break by choice. Yeah. Forced as in injury, or by choice as in I'm burnt out and need to put pause,
kind of forced too.
But she chose to do it.
Yeah.
And I took a forced break in 2020 and came back with like this hunger and love for the sport that I'd never experienced before. So I think that these like, blow it up and start over or do something totally different. It can be so healthy. And then you can come back to, like, I came back to the marathon. I stood on that start line. I was like, I don't fucking care if I run sub 3.
Yeah.
And then I did.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah, it was great.
And
would it have been great if you didn't?
If I ran a 3:00:01, it would have been great.
That's a different beast.
Yeah. I still wouldn't have qualified for Boston. But it's the mentality of it. It's like getting to the joy versus I need to do this and I have to do this and I have to run this run and I have to do this. And so it's been so fascinating to interview people who chose to stop running in 2020, and then they're picking it up again in 2021, and they're like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, I can do that. It sucks. I didn't run for 6 months.
Yeah.
But we're back, and this process is going to be fun. So I think that you talk about the longevity aspect, and the process versus the outcome is like, again, from 160 interviews, like 98% of people are process versus outcome. And I wasn't successful until I made that shift.
Yeah, I have a magic bullet, right? Like, my magic bullet is that I know I have a neurologic disease. Yeah. I know what's coming, but I don't at the same time. It's not written, but I can make choices based on that. And if I don't know if this is true, right? But if racing an Ironman cost me a year of life running around with my kids, like, I'll never forgive myself.
Right.
That's not worth it. You know what I mean? I find joy in lots of things. So I don't know. I'm searching for that place where I don't feel that like demon on the inside being like, go faster. You can do it. I know you can. And the one that's like, shut up.
I could go for hours on this. I think it's a good place to wrap.
Yeah, I do too.
So if people want to follow you and Kingsley, well, let's start with you.
Yeah.
If people want to follow you on social media, where can we find you?
You can follow my business partner, my co-founder, and myself at forwardspineandsport.com, or our Instagram is forwardspineandsport. You can follow me at Bryan Kent, BryanKent, and you can follow my dog, most importantly, let's be clear, at All Hail the Kingsley on Instagram.
I follow like 3 dogs on Instagram, so Kingsley, you should be honored.
Yeah. And 10,000 runners.
Basically. Yeah, Bryan, thanks so much. This was
awesome, man. I appreciate you.
Of course, likewise. That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next time on For the Long Run. And in the meantime, happy trails. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too.